Hello, so this is lesson study 2, questions 6 through 12. Again, this is a review of algebra needed for our new redesigned SAT. So our first question here is using a taxi driver, and now he drives with Uber. So he's considered switching from driving a taxi to driving an Uber. So if he does, he will no longer have to pay a $100 rental fee. So if you listen to the first 5 questions, there was a $100 rental fee. He would not have to pay that. However, he would have to pay 20% of his average fare to Uber, but the cost of gas will remain unchanged. So every time he picks up a fare, he would have to pay 20% of that average fare to Uber and then subtract out the gas. Which of the following functions would best model the salary after expenses as an Uber driver? U in terms of the number of fares, X. So X is the number of fares. U, or U of X, is the salary based on how many fares he gets. So he'll no longer have to pay a $100 rental fee, so we can cross that out. But he does have to pay the 20% of his average fare. So make sure that that is circled, and the cost of gas will remain unchanged. So you will need to know the cost of gas before we move on. Now, I underlined salary in the U, so you'll notice that those are both in red. So salary means it has a variable U, and the number of fares is X, underlined in purple. So the cost of gas from a previous question was 97 cents per fare. And then paying 20% means you need to take 20% off the fare. So you have 100% of the fare minus the 20%. So that is the key to this question, is where to put that minus the 20%. You'll notice it is not he is not getting 20%. He is paying 20% of the fare, which means he is taking the 20% off of the 100%. 100% in decimal form is 1. 20% in decimal form is 0.2. So in this case, it is not also including the gas. So the gas in this case is being subtracted after I pay out this 20%, which fits model A here. So you'll notice that it's the 626 for average fare, used from a previous equation. And then that 1 minus 0.2 represents the 100% minus the 20% I have to pay. And then I take off the gas after that. So that is answer A. The next step is I have to use the 2 equations I have from the previous, and I have to determine the minimum number of fares, X, that Armando must collect each day in order for his daily salary as a taxi driver to be greater than his daily salary as an Uber driver. So there are 2 situations here. Okay, so it's the salary as a taxi driver to be greater than his daily salary as an Uber driver. That is the question. So I'm highlighting that. So I need to know what the 2 equations are. So from a previous set of questions, I have the taxi equation as 1529x minus 100. And from the question number 6, I have 1626 times 1 minus 0.2 minus 0.97x. And now I have to determine when is the taxi greater than that Uber. Okay, so now I am just solving an equation with variables on both sides. So I'm going to simplify the Uber equation first. Okay, so I'm going to do that 1 minus 0.2. I get 0.8. I'm then going to multiply that 1626 times the 0.8. I get 13.01. And then I subtract then 0.97. I get 12.04. Okay, roughly. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 1529 from both sides to get those x's the same. You notice that I'm showing all the work here. And then I divide by a negative 3.25, and I get x equals 100 over 3.25. Now the trick is none of my answers have a 3.25 on top. But just by doing the math, I can eliminate questions C and D because it's 100 divided by the 3.25. So I'm not going to have the 100 on the bottom of the equation. Now the trick is, which one of A and B are going to give me the 3.25 that I need? I have to look back and I have to go, well, 15.29 minus the 12.38. This question right here gives me 3.25. And that is how I would solve that question. 8 changes it up, where it is dealing more with probability. So a survey I've taken of 200 adults who recently attended a concert at the Excel Center used either their taxi cab or Uber to get to the event. If the respondents who hired a taxi cab were selected at random, what is the probability that a concert goer was between 18 and 35? So I have to look at the respondents who hired a taxi cab and what is the probability that the concert goer was between 18 and 35. So the people who hired a taxi cab were circled in blue. So there are 97 people. The people in there that are age 18 to 35, there are 19 of them. So the answer to this question is 19 over 97B. For our next problem, we are still talking about taxi cabs, but now they need to possess a special license called a medallion in order to operate. The price of a medallion is in thousands of dollars, P, and is modeled by the function P of T. The price is a function of time, where equals 172 plus 36T, where T is the number of years that have elapsed since January 1st, 2000. Based on this model, during what year will the price of the medallion exceed $850,000? So the key to this is the price of the medallion, highlighted in blue here, is in thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars, okay? The orange is the equation. T is the number of years that have elapsed since January 1, 2000. And the question is underlined in purple. What year will the price of the medallion first exceed $850,000? So the first thing we have to do is we have to take that $850,000 and divide by 1,000, because the price is in thousands of dollars. So we divide that out and we get 850. That is the price. The price is P. So I'm going to take that 850 and I'm going to plug it in for P. Now I'm solving an equation. I subtract the 172. I divide by 36. I get T is 18.83. So let's go look back at the equation. What year will the price of the medallion first exceed $850,000? Well, it's 18.83 years after January 1st, 2000. So the answer is B, 2018. That is the year that will first exceed that. For 10, what was the meaning of the value of 36 in the function in question 9? So let's look back at question 9, just that sentence there. So the price medallion in thousands of dollars P is modeled by this function P of T, 172 plus 36T, where T is the number of years that have elapsed since January 1st, 2000. So that 36 stands for the slope. It's the slope of the line. So the slope is always changing, and the slope is increasing every year since 2000. So each year it's going to increase $36,000, which means that is D. Remember, this is in thousands of dollars. So answer C is just $36. Answer D is the 36,000. So we have to make sure that you read every word and you highlight the thousands of dollars. That is the key to get answer D. For question 11 and 12, there's a scatter plot of his last 8 shifts. So the number of fares is the X, and the Y is the daily salary. So they ask you this question: which of the following statements is true about this data? Okay, then you have to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, his greatest salary occurred on the day that he collected the most fares. So let's look at the day that he collected the most fares. You'll notice that it's this point right here. He collected 30 fares that day. But was that his highest grossing salary? No, there's 2 other points that are higher than that. So I'm going to cross that statement out. Let's look at this. He didn't earn enough to recover his expenses during one of his shifts. Well, if you look down here at this point right here, you'll notice that that is below the X value. So that means he lost money that day. So that's a check mark. So 2 is true. Let's check out 3. The range of his daily salaries is greater than 340. Well, we have to remember what range is. Range is the spread of the data. You find it by taking the highest value minus the lowest value. So if you look, the lowest value I highlighted is around -20. The highest value, around 350. So the range is greater than 340. Check. So the answer to this question is C. And the last question in this section is, if the line of best fit is plotted for the same data, which would most likely be the slope of this line? So the line of best fit is the line drawn through the center of the data. So if you draw a line through the center of this data, okay, then you have to find the slope. What would most likely be the slope? You gotta find the rise over the run. Number 1, you can eliminate 2 answers to this, A and B. You'll notice that the points are going up. As the number of fares increase, so does his salary in general. So A, it's not going to be negative, and B, it's not going to be 0. So you're deciding between C and D. So let's draw that line in. So that would be the line of best fit. You'll notice that it's between some of the points. Okay, and now you look and you go, all right, I'm going to estimate kind of where this rise over run is. So what I do to do this, I find 2 points that are kind of nice, and then and kind of close to the line, and I estimate my rise over my run. So like it's going up 40 because each one of those ticks mark is 20, and over 3, I would do 40 over 3, which is approximately 13.33. So my answer is going to be D. Now you can also look back at question number 1 at our equation and say we were given this already. It's 15.29 x minus 100. So what is the slope of that line? It's answer D. Please be sure to write down all these notes and be able to answer these questions. Thank you.